I didn't realize I was going to be the guinea pig for this little experiment here. I was trying to think of what other guys had done, and I thought, well, I don't remember anybody else doing this.
No one has.
All right, thank you. Okay, so since I have the floor for 5 minutes plus?
That's
Something
it.
like that. So I was born in Brooklyn, New York. Anybody else here from Brooklyn, New York?
Dodgers.
No, actually, back when the Dodgers were Brooklyn Dodgers too. Yeah. And came out here when I was 6. Started studying the piano in New York. But my mother took me to the Foreman School of Music on Pico Boulevard, not far from here. And Mr. Otto Foreman, I think, had used accordion for sale and convinced my mother that accordion would be the in-instrument for a nice Jewish boy. So I had to switch from piano to accordion. And I used to be Dynamite, Lady of Spain. Dennis, you were at her birthday, right, when I did the thing? Yeah, so I'll get to that. So I then embarrassed myself on accordion for a while, but while I was doing that, I was going to something called Hillel Hebrew Academy, which probably nobody's ever heard of here. It was a Jewish parochial school, and I was raised as an Orthodox Jew. The PE program was pretty much non-existent. And then Hillel stopped at 6th grade, and I had to go to something called Rambam Torah Institute for 7th and 8th, and the PE program got even worse there. And actually my best friend from those days is the head of motion picture business affairs at CAA, and we both got out because of how he got screwed over at his bar mitzvah, but that's a whole other story. And then I started at this place right down here, Beverly Hills High School in 9th grade.
Go Normans.
Go Normans, right. So there's 3 Normans here, right? Kent, Chris, maybe
Jeff
else.
also.
Oh, Jeff too, right. Okay, 4. All right. So I got out before most of these other Normans were born. I graduated in 68. And my year was, I guess, the first year we beat Culver. 67, sorry.
Just to give reference.
Close. Thank you, Chris. And there was a comment about the wrong side of the tracks. I think it was for you, Desmond, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So actually, believe it or not, in Beverly Hills, there's a wrong side of the tracks too. Yeah. So I grew up south of the tracks. And the tracks ran along Santa Monica Boulevard.
Oh, no, those tracks.
Santa
There used to be
Monica,
red tracks,
we were,
right?
yeah,
That's right.
Yeah,
Red
it's
tracks,
very
yeah.
So
discreet.
basically, that's right. So, I was south of the tracks, actually south of even Olympic. But what was interesting
South
is...
Olympic.
Yeah.
That would be like the equivalent of the ghetto. That would be the mean streets of Beverly Hills. You'd probably see Desmond over there in that section, just to put this into perspective.
That's really good.
Yeah, that's
So
That was
anyway,
dangerous,
coming south of the tracks, and also having as my best language Hebrew as opposed to English, put me at a bit of a disadvantage when I started Beverly. And what was interesting is you Beverly guys, and other people too, know there's a great big huge front lawn. So I was my full height at the age of 13, which was 6'4"3/4.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
I've dropped about a half an inch since, and I turned that to postmarital compression for all these guys who are still young enough not to have experienced that. But anyway,
6'7" with the pro.
yeah, right. There you go. And so I used to be afraid, actually, believe it or not, to walk across the front lawn at Beverly High during nutrition or during lunch, because being so big and then wearing glasses back in those days, and they didn't have contact lenses that worked on me, so I played half blind. But I felt that everybody was looking at me because I was like a really big kid, tall, and as my high school football coach used to say, pear-shaped. But I love him, and we're still buddies. And actually, literally just last Friday, I was down on the field recording a little video tribute to him because he's one of the guys getting honored at the Beverly High Athletic Alumni Association dinner. And this guy wasn't just an ordinary high school football coach. He actually, last year, the President's Council on Physical Fitness and Sports has awarded 3 Lifetime Achievement Awards. The first one went to Jack LaLanne. The second one went to Kenneth Cooper, the jogging guy. The third one to Richard Keeler, my old coach, who actually went to the President's Council some years after we quit playing and started the first corporate wellness program for Campbell Soup Company many, many years ago. And because Keeler was the wrestling coach, I also wrestled, and because I didn't want to leave 7th period PE, I also did track and field. And then I started at UCLA, and I had, I guess, sort of strong interest, something just short of offers from West Point, the Air Force Academy, and UC Santa Barbara. But the reason I went out to play football and got the crap kicked out of me in the first year and then went on a weightlifting program, Keeler was a very, very serious-minded guy and had a weightlifting program back in the 60s that was, I think, probably ahead of almost anybody. for his time, and also had a competitive weightlifting club within the school that most of the athletes were involved with. I decided that the reason I wanted football was because being such a pair, coming from Rambam Torah Institute, I realized as in my first year that the football players, it seemed, were getting most of the women. Forgive me, ladies. So what I wanted to do was be like them.
But didn't you play on Saturday? So you're being an Orthodox.
That was the big fight. The first big fight was to leave the yeshiva system altogether. The second big fight was playing Friday night games, because half the games are Friday night. Right. Shabbat.
I'm not Jewish. Sorry.
You're Italian, right?
Close.
Close. Not even Jewish, but you say Shabbat very well. It's a good accent. Good pass.
I love you.
So anyway, yeah, that was a problem. And also, as a result, I didn't climb Mount Whitney. Keeler started, all the football seniors climb Mount Whitney every year, the last year. Yeah, because that was not strictly part of the game, I wasn't allowed to do that. But I started on the UCLA crew team, and I decided that was sort of a nice, safe thing to do. I stayed on the crew team just long enough, actually, to I called actually Kent and Justin, knowing that they were going to form this thing, many years later. And I said, "How long do I have to stay on this freaking crew team in order to qualify?" So
is that alive?
I concluded, psychic powers. And then I finally realized that I'd sort of had enough. The crew team was great, but the workouts were unbelievable. And when I got out of high school, I was in the best shape of my life ever. Most of the crew folks were not in really great shape, and it was like all year long. And I just didn't want to do it all year long, and for half that year, twice a day. Anyway, I then managed to somehow get myself named the UCLA Rhodes Scholar nominee, notwithstanding the fact that I wasn't around for a lot of years on athletics, but spent a lot of time doing various student government things and other sorts of stuff. By then had switched from accordion back to piano and clarinet and saxophones and high school bands and orchestras. And then I went back to New York, NYU Law School, and started practicing on Wall Street. I'm sort of a classically trained Wall Street securities lawyer. The next sort of depth down was until I was really lonely one night in Greenwich Village, and the only store open was a Greek stand that had souvlaki. I had never eaten non-kosher meat before. So that was another sort of step away. That's right. So, and then I fell in love with Manhattan. Decided to stay in New York. Practiced in New York for a number of years. Then came back here. I'm now a partner at Steptoe & Johnson. Have been there for a number of years. Steptoe & Johnson is a DC-based firm. We've got about 500 some odd lawyers. It's sort of a medium-sized big firm. And I am a corporate person. I actually now will get into my formal speech. I prepared some remarks here. Let me just see what page we're on.
Almost the last one.
No, just kidding. So one of the fun things I do is for the last 15 years I've been teaching in the Anderson School's Executive Ed program, Merger and Acquisition program. They run it once or twice a year. I teach legal aspects of mergers and acquisitions, and I figured to keep people awake I ought to bring some handouts. So I'll start this one down that way, and I'll start this one down that way, actually. And what that is Thomson Reuters solicited me to write a little chapter for a business due diligence book they were doing that just came out a week or so ago. And the book actually costs, believe it or not, $80. I can get it to you for $40. Or if you actually are involved,
that's a bargain.
Right? Or if you're actually involved in buying, selling, or investing in businesses, it's actually a really pretty good piece. A lot of the stuff I draw from what I've been teaching at UCLA on the due diligence side over the last 15 years. And it's, if I must say so myself, a really funny thing. And not lawyers don't often write funny things, but this is actually pretty funny on due diligence. And I have great M&A jokes, too, that I use when I teach over at UCLA, because you have to keep the business executives awake. And then what I do, basically, is a few things. I do deals. The deals are more often private M&A transactions representing a buyer, seller, or an investment banking firm, or a special committee or shareholder. And when I'm not doing that, I'm doing financings representing either the company or the money. We've been in the news recently for one particular thing that Desmond probably knows all about. Our firm negotiated the repayment of $125 million by Apollo to CalPERS in that little investigation going on. And basically what I'm not doing sort of deal work, I act kind of, I'd say, is, we all have our family doctors. So I always say a corporate lawyer is kind of like your family doctor. Any business ought to have one lawyer who kind of knows what's going on in the overall corporate body. and who knows how to basically, marshal the other resources, and it's sort of like the quarterback for taking care of the body overall, and brings in the specialists, whether it's the employee benefits person, a litigator, that kind of thing. And so I do a fair amount of that kind of work, where I do stuff totally outside my area, but manage other lawyers, some at my firm, sometimes some at other firms. That's kind of what I do professionally. Personally, how much more time do I have?
It was like 3 minutes ago. You're good.
Okay, all right, so I'll go very quickly. I'll send one other thing around because she's been mentioned a couple of times. So my better half is Kathy Ferraro. The Beverly Hills Courier says she's the best broker in Beverly Hills because the other four there are actually agents. She's really a broker. I was lucky enough that one of Kathy's clients was Grant Hill. So we went to Grant's wedding a number of years ago in Battle Creek, Michigan, and that's where we met Dennis and his brother. It was like love at first sight. Notwithstanding, it was all on the up and platonic in every sense. Yeah. So I heard your comment earlier about Dennis, so I want to make that clear.
No, you're
clear. I also actually want to thank you because you invited Chris Lewis, I think, to speak here. And most of you were here that night, and Chris gave a really amazing presentation, I thought. And I had met Chris and spoken with him a number of times, but we were not friends at all. But Chris was speaking here the night before I had to send this little book chapter to the printer, Thomson Reuters back in New York. And I had one of my former law partners read it. I had my wife read it. But I really wanted a non-lawyer type who was really very experienced on the deal side to read it. So I went up to Chris afterwards, and I really felt a little badly doing it because I thought it was kind of what we'd say in my vernacular, chutzpahdik. But Chris is a very nice guy, and I handed him a copy of it. I literally had the whole thing in my pocket folded up. And I said, listen, I'd like to ask you a favor. And I said, would you mind reading this for me and giving me your comments? I mean, really tough, whatever you want to say about it. So he said, okay, when do you need it by? I said, tomorrow. And he said, are you kidding? And I said, well, I promised to send it to the publisher tomorrow. So, if you're going to do it, I kind of need it. And I know you weren't planning on this. And lo and behold, I got to tell you, the guy just, the next morning by 11 a.m., on my email, he sent me a markup with some comments that actually caused me to start thinking again about some stuff. And I took another day getting it to the printer because he raised some points that I thought were really good that I wanted to address. And so that's why he's actually thanked in the dedication at the end there. Wow, he's the Chris. Cool. So I think it kind of just shows you, I mean, what I forgot to bring was part of what my coach sent me last week in an email talking about really the difference that being teammates makes in terms of relationships. And although I guess most of us, in fact, I don't think, has anybody here played on the same team? No. So nobody's played on the same? All right.
He and I did growing up.
But I think what you kind of find is, I mean, I always tell a lot of people when I lecture on this is that the most important quality in being a lawyer, I think, is just endurance. Because a lot of what we do, just you got to really keep on going. You got to do whatever it takes to get the job done. And a lot of people are intelligent, a lot of people are competent, but sometimes people just sort of give up. My little specialty was goal line defense, and my one heroic play in high school was holding up Culver City when I was first in goal, and they tried running over me every down. And
our big rival every year at the end. So that's
right. That was a big thing. Yeah, it was the first. My season was the first we beat Culver in 10 years, and the first winning season we had in 10 years, and then it launched sort of a dynasty. How'd you do your year?
I had 228 yards. I had 4 touchdowns, and we clobbered them. Yeah, we just I ran all over them. Senior year, I was out of control. Cornell Lake was going to be the opposing running back, and he ended up breaking a wrist.
So I just want to offer a couple of things. As I think Justin's dad would say, it's important to sort of give value before asking for value. So. Couple of things. One of my clients opened a restaurant. Anybody familiar with the old Jack Sprat's restaurant on Pico Boulevard around here? So Jack Sprat's is now the 6 restaurant. The 6 is because of the Society of 6, California Impressionists. It's sort of a tangential thing. But it's a really great restaurant. It's sort of a casual American bistro, best hamburger in town. They've got fish, they've got pizzas, and I'm in what they call their Route 66 Club. So if anybody likes the 6 and you either work on the west side or you live on the west side, they're open for lunch and dinner and Saturday and Sunday brunch. And if you give them my name, and I could send out a little email that can go to everybody, you will get, I guess, a couple of samples free of 2 beers